Here I am. Brandon Walker, SEC Country, more Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast, and I'm feeling good. And I don't care how you're feeling, because I'm feeling pretty good. Mississippi State and Alabama this week. If you're scared, be scared. Not a problem with me. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of Alabama. That's going to be the central theme of today's show. You guys can, I'll lay it out. We'll talk about it. We can talk about whether you want to be scared or not. I don't see anything to fear in this Alabama team. I don't see anything to be terrified of in this Alabama team other than our record under Dan Mullen. We'll talk about it all day today. We will definitely hit this from all angles all week. We'll also have a shot of Jack at the end of the show. Together, we'll have a shot of Jack. So that'll be fun. We'll all enjoy that, won't we? Hello, Meridian. Going to have a tighter schedule today. Going to keep it pretty tight. I'm going to go in about 2 minutes, and we're going to get right into the podcast so that at the end we can have plenty of time. We'll be done by, I guess, 11:30 your time, 12:30 my time. We'll be done by 12:30, and that'll be our new schedule. We'll kind of keep it really tight and stick to that. Bama Hayton from Arkansas. Hello, Paula Pace. Good morning, Mindy Stevens. Thank you for being here. Hail State from Heidelberg, Mississippi. Greenwood is in the house. Grace Thacker Good, one of my favorites. A lot of emojis. Looks like my kids are have found the phone, my wife's phone at home. Good to see everybody. State over UMass. We won't talk about that very much. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't fun, but it is over. And Mississippi State is 7-2, and they are ready to play Alabama, who's number 1, number 2 in the country, depending on which poll you want to use. I prefer to use the college football playoff poll because they actually watch football. So, number 2, Alabama against number 16, Mississippi State. Wesley Taylor is here from Brandon, Mississippi. Good to have you. Jack Daniels Country, Travis Preston. Hello from Senatobia, Connie L. Sidden. Hail State from Shannon, Mississippi. Chad Mask, home of the Red Raiders. Good to see Shannon here. The helmet, I'm going with the cowbell look. I'm going with a minimal approach here to see if we like just the cowbells. So you guys complained about the helmet long enough, and I took the helmet out of the equation. Jacksonville, Florida. Luke Hemphill is here. Thank you for being here. Jacksonville, Florida. Love Jacksonville, Florida. Love it. Might be my favorite place in Florida. Fulton, Mississippi is here. Corey Carpenter checking in this morning. Hail State from North Carolina. How much passion do you think State will come out with this week? Well, if they don't, something's wrong. State should have plenty of passion, aggression, whatever you want to call it. State should be fired up to go this week. Should have a sold-out crowd. Should have a great crowd. You'll have all the State fans from all across Mississippi. Then you'll have the Alabama fans from Columbus and Meridian. And should be a great crowd. Good morning from Biloxi, Mississippi. Hello, Donnie Arrington. Thank you for being here. Hail State from Ocean Springs, John Smith checking in this morning. So the coast is well represented. Bradley Burns says good morning from Starkville. Vicksburg is here. We're all across the state. We're all across the country this morning. Today on the show, we're going to talk about Mississippi State and Alabama, why I'm not scared, why I see a path to victory. Am I crazy? No, I'm not. I think you're crazy if you're terrified of this Alabama team. That's what I think. At any point this week, will I predict a victory? Probably not. I think Alabama is most likely to win. But you can't. You're doing yourself a disservice and Mississippi State a disservice if you just look at the names on these jerseys and say, well, Alabama's going to win a blowout. That's not true. Houston, Mississippi is here. Jim West, Sandy Springs, Georgia is here. Good for everybody. All right. Why do you sound depressed today? I'm not depressed at all, Michael Clyburn. I'm feeling great. I'm the fan of a 7-2 team that has a very good chance to beat Alabama this weekend. I'm feeling fantastic. You guys ready over there in the booth? Not going to answer me, huh? Terp, you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's get this party started. Let's go.
The More Cowbell Show.
brought to you by SEC Country. And now, your host of the More Cowbell Show, Brandon Walker.
That's me, Brandon Walker. More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country, coming to you from the SEC Country studios in beautiful Dunwoody, Georgia. Also coming to you live on Facebook Live this morning. We have 140 of our favorite Mississippi State fans with us on Facebook Live. You can do that every single morning you would like at 10:45 a.m. Central Time. We go from 10:45 a.m. to 11:30, a nice smooth 45 minutes, probably the best 45 minutes of your entire day. So check into that. Please join us if you've never joined us. If you don't have Facebook, then don't join us. That's fine. You can still listen to the podcast. We'll have a good time on this podcast as well. Today, I am not going to spend a lot of time talking about Mississippi State and UMass. What's the point? We all saw it. We all got angry at least once, twice, maybe 12 times during the game. We all sat there and wondered, is this heading to an embarrassing loss? Well, no. State wins 34-23 over UMass and sets up the game of the season this week, 7-2 Mississippi State against 9-0 Alabama. It's the game we have to play every single year. You know, people say, are you going to tweet, we want Bama? No, we don't have to want them. We're going to get them. You know, Penn State, they can want Bama. Ohio State can want Bama. We're going to get them regardless if we want them or not. So here we are, State against Bama. I know that Alabama is 9-0. I know Alabama has been a national title contender for 10 years. I know Nick Saban has owned Dan Mullen. But I ain't scared. I don't see an unbeatable juggernaut. I don't see a team that is going to impose its will on Mississippi State. I don't see that. And you can tweet me at bwalker_SEC. You can tell me I'm wrong. Alabama fans have done so already. But I don't see it. And I'll break that down of what I see and what I don't see a little bit later in the show. And then at the end, we'll have a shot of Jack. We will have a shot of Jack. I think if you're a long-time listener of this show or a short-time listener, you know what that means. And we'll have that at the end of this show, and then at the end we'll spend 10 minutes talking to our Facebook Live friends. Before we get started, as always, got a little business to take care of here. You know, one thing is the holidays are coming. That means football, that means food, that means a lot of things, but mostly it means football. And it means that Mississippi State, sometimes I pick up the wrong thing and start reading the wrong thing. Holiday cash, you need it, and I know where to get it. MyBookie is the place to score serious cash on your sports predictions. Believe it or not, the holidays are just around the corner. That means plenty of parties, gifts, and spending. It also means there's lots of football, basketball, and other sports you can score big on every day. Man up and play like the pros on game day. You can play the money line, side, or total. MyBookie is your hookup for all your betting needs and offers super fast payouts when you win. Everybody needs holiday cash, right? Well, it's coming if you bet on MyBookie. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. If you want to make money betting the games, you got to go to mybookie.ag. They're the only site I'd recommend. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out for yourself. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. You just have to use the promo code Cowbell to activate your offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. All right. Mississippi State played UMass. We'll talk about it very, very briefly. It was not pretty. It was not a game that I'm going to tell my grandchildren about. It's not a game I'm even going to tell my children about. It was just a game. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. It was ugly. It was borderline embarrassing. But it happens. It happens. There are games every year for certain teams, for all teams, that they don't play as well, that they can't get going, that they can't get out of first or second gear, and that happened to Mississippi State on Saturday. Still a 34-23 win for State. I'll just say it like this. There are plenty of times in my life, and I'm 38 years old, where Mississippi State would have lost that football game. There are plenty of times in my life, plenty of seasons, where I've watched Mississippi State play a game like that, and they lose to an inferior opponent. They did not lose this game. And that's really all you can say. That's really all you can say. There are teams in my life that would have found a way to lose. This one found a way to win and win 34-23. Nick Fitzgerald and Harris Williams continue to be the backbone of this team offensively. It wasn't really pretty, especially in the first half. The offensive line wasn't opening many holes, but in the second half, the offensive line did their job. Harris Williams and Nick Fitzgerald did their job. Both ran over 100 yards. And every time Nick Fitzgerald runs for a touchdown, you can pretty much bet Ayers Williams is laying a block on somebody to get it done. So they continue to be the backbone. Dedrick Thomas returning that punt was not only great to see, but because it helped win the game. It gave Mississippi State room at the end, but it was great to see because it was an explosive play. And outside of Nick Fitzgerald, we haven't had many explosive plays on this team this year. So if Dedrick Thomas can set himself apart as somebody who can make an explosive play, then that is very good for this team going forward. But otherwise, as far as the UMass game goes, the only thing to really take away from this is that Mississippi State is 7-2. Mississippi State through 9 games is 7-2. They'll be ranked tomorrow night in the College Football Playoff Committee's poll. They'll be ranked in the top 15 in the country. They will be just fine. So State's 7-2. Put the UMass game out of your mind. Now, the entire season is in front of you. You still got a great path to 9-3 at least. You have a path that exists that takes you to 10-2. But the 9-3 path looks very good. A good bowl game looks almost like a certainty at this point. And that's what we're doing going forward. Right now, though, Alabama, the next one on the schedule. Can Mississippi State climb that mountain? Can Dan Mullen climb that mountain? Can Dan Mullen win a game he hasn't been able to win at Mississippi State? Can he, as Mississippi State's coach, conquer Nick Saban? There hasn't been much evidence yet in his previous 8 tries to tell you that he can possibly do it. Average score over the years, 31 Alabama, 8 Mississippi State. We haven't been very close to this team. 2014 was the best shot. If we'd played that game at home, I think we win it, but we didn't. Played it on the road, lost 25-20 with Dak Prescott. Now, got Nick Fitzgerald. He is playing at home in his redshirt junior season. State's defense much better than it was that year. So we'll definitely, let's look at it. So I'm going to set this up. For a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about what people see in Alabama. I'm going to talk about how the evidence over the last 8 years does paint a bad picture. And I'm going to talk about why fans expect to get blown out. And then I'm going to flip the script and say why you should throw all of it out. I know that Dan Mullen's never been able to do this. There really hasn't been very much to indicate Dan Mullen can do it. And if you look at this game based solely on the names on the front of the jerseys, then Alabama should win this football game easily. If you only look at the names on the front of the jerseys and the helmets, then Alabama is going to win. If you look further than that, which we'll do a little bit later, I think you might see a path that you don't see right now. I think you might see what I see. But to be honest, it's not a great matchup for Mississippi State. When you talk about what Mississippi State does well, especially offensively, what Alabama does well, especially defensively, it's not a great matchup. Mississippi State and Dan Mullen have to be able to run the football to create a balanced offensive attack. They have to be able to run it first and then pass off of that. And if they can't, they're behind the chains. They're behind the 8 ball. It's tough for State to win. We saw it against Georgia. We saw it against Auburn. Those are 2 very good teams, 2 top 10 teams. The State had to play on the road. Now, this game is at home. I don't think – Georgia lost that early momentum in front of 90,000 people, and there was never any getting it back. With Auburn, the cheese kind of slid off the cracker in the middle of the second quarter. But at home, I think that momentum will always be there. I think the fans will give State a lift. Alabama's built to stop the run, and when our run gets stopped, we have not been great adjusting this year. I'm talking about Mississippi State. Can Nick Fitzgerald throw the ball well enough to keep them honest? That's a question. Can Mississippi State's offensive line, which has been great this year, which has been one of the best in the country, can this offensive line create running lanes? Can it keep Nick Fitzgerald upright? Can Mississippi State's secondary handle Alabama's wide receivers? State secondary and the passing defense is 3rd in the SEC right now. 3rd in the SEC in yards allowed per game. But I have eyeballs. You have eyeballs. We have seen this secondary get beat deep. Happened against Auburn, happened against UMass. And Alabama has better wide receivers than UMass, has better wide receivers than Auburn. Doesn't have a better quarterback, but has better wide receivers. These are all questions. Can the offensive line hold up? Can the defensive line get to Hurts? Can Nick Fitzgerald adjust if we can't run? Can we run? Can our secondary handle their wide receivers? These are all legitimate questions to ask about this matchup. And they're all questions that State's going to have to answer in the affirmative to win this game. So let's get all that out of the way. Let's get all the bad stuff out on the table. Mullen's never been able to beat Alabama. Mullen's never really been able to be that close outside of 2014. Nick Saban is the best coach in the country. He does have the best talent. There's 4 and 5 stars everywhere. I understand all that. I understand if you're a State fan and you remember the We Believe thing in 2012 and you don't remember it fondly. You remember getting your hopes up and still having them dashed. I understand all that. So if you want to take that approach, if you want to say, I just hope we don't get hurt, if you want to say this game will be over before it starts, if you want to say Mississippi State will never beat Alabama, you are free. This is a free country. You are free to say whatever you'd like. But I ain't scared. I'm not scared. I look at Alabama, and I don't see the unbeatable juggernaut this year that everybody else sees. I look at Alabama, and I see a team who is elite, who deserves to be ranked number 1 or 2 in the country. I see a team whose reputation precedes it. I see a team who has the best players on the field. I see all of that. But I also see a team who really hasn't looked all that great against good competition. And they haven't played much good competition. Their schedule has been awful so far, with Florida State turning out not to be very good, and they're not at all. They're probably not going to make a bowl. With Florida State not being any good, Alabama's schedule at this point has been a joke. So what I'm telling you right now is forget the last 8 years. Forget 51-3 last year. This isn't last year. Let's really look at what these two teams have done on the field of play this season. Let's really look at that. Alabama has played 2. That's 1, 2 Power 5 teams with a winning record. In 9 games, they played 2 Power 5 teams with a winning record. Who are those teams? LSU, who Mississippi State beat by 30. And Texas A&M, who Mississippi State beat 35-14 on the road. Alabama went to Texas A&M. They won by 8. Alabama hosted LSU. They won by 14. And not just did they win by 14, they got pretty much handled at the line of scrimmage. LSU stood toe-to-toe with Alabama. I saw it. You can go to SEC Network right now and watch LSU stand physically toe-to-toe with Alabama. Guess what? LSU didn't stand physically toe-to-toe with Mississippi State. They didn't. I saw it. Texas A&M didn't stand physically toe-to-toe with Mississippi State. They did not. This isn't just about common opponents, because that's a flimsy argument. You know, it matters when you play people. It matters all this. But this is about the eye test against those opponents. I mean, really look at what State did to A&M, up 35-7 in the fourth. Really look at what State did to LSU, 37-7. Just physically dominated LSU. Look at all that, all right? And that's the team that's going to take the field Saturday night against Alabama, who did not physically dominate LSU, who did not physically dominate Texas A&M. I know that they have those plain helmets with numbers on the side. I know they have Alabama on the front of the jersey, so we're supposed to be scared. I understand that. But LSU didn't come to Starkville and control the pace of the game. LSU didn't come to Starkville and outgain Mississippi State. I understand Nick Fitzgerald, his throwing isn't where it needs to be. I understand the receivers for Mississippi State aren't where they need to be. And you need those two things to probably beat Alabama. And I'm not saying at all Mississippi State's going to beat Alabama. I'm just saying get automatic blowout out of your head right now. Because what this Alabama team has done, what this Mississippi State team has done, I'm just saying there is nothing on either resume that says this will be a blowout just because it's Alabama. You can't find it on either resume. Look at who Bama's played. Look at how they played those teams. I know 59-0 against Vanderbilt is great. I know 66-3 against Ole Miss was hilarious. I know all that. But when it has come down to it against teams that are not that bad, Alabama hasn't really rolled. Bama's offense against A&M, Bama's offense against LSU was just okay. State has a better defense than both of those teams. State is built. They are built defensively to handle Alabama's offense. I understand the concerns about Nick Fitzgerald, but LSU stood toe-to-toe with Alabama with Danny Etling at quarterback. Texas A&M stood toe-to-toe with Alabama with Kellen Mond, a freshman, at quarterback. Really think about that. Mississippi State will be the best team Alabama has faced this year, period. Mississippi State's quarterback, Nick Fitzgerald, will be the best quarterback Alabama has faced this year, period. And you say, well, what about Auburn and Georgia? What about those blowouts? Those two blowouts stick out like a sore thumb for Mississippi State. They do. But there's a very good chance Georgia's a better football team than Alabama. I mean, there's a very good chance Georgia's a better football team than Alabama. State fans are already all over me on Twitter for not conceding a blowout here. Alabama fans, predictably, are all over me on Twitter for not conceding a blowout. But just look at the evidence. That's all I'm asking you. This Alabama team is not the unbeatable monster we make it out to be. That's my central point here. They've played two decent teams this season and just looked okay against both. State's a pretty good team. And while the matchup is bad, while history is bad, while Dan Mullen hasn't climbed that mountain yet, I'm just not prepared to say this Alabama team, which can't blow out LSU, which can't blow out Texas A&M, is going to walk into Davis-Wade Stadium and blow out Mississippi State. That's just what I'm thinking. Be scared if you want to. I understand. But I'm not. Come 6 o'clock Saturday night, in Starkville, Mississippi, Mississippi State has a chance to beat Alabama. We'll break it down the rest of the week. We'll talk about it. A lot of you are rolling your eyes. I understand. I've been a State fan for 38 years. I know that hope is a dangerous thing. Listen, I've watched Dan Mullen coach against Alabama 8 times. 8 times I've come away wondering why that team gets to be so good and why we have to lose to them every single year. I understand all that. But the 2017 version of Alabama and the 2017 version of Mississippi State have never played each other. They haven't. Todd Grantham at Mississippi State has never played Alabama and Jalen Hurts. And I don't think Alabama's had to play a state team this good in Starkville. I think this is the best team we've had against them in Starkville. The 14 team was really good, but it was in Tuscaloosa. So the 2010 team was really good, but it was in Tuscaloosa. The 2012 team wasn't bad in Tuscaloosa. This is the first really, really good Dan Mullen team I think we've had to get them at home. 2015 was just Dak and really not all that much help. Defensively, we're so far along right now. I'm just not scared of this game. I'll go to Facebook Live right now, see if anybody says anything that jumps out to me. The Bama game will not be a blowout. The winner will only have a 1-score advantage at the end. That's very possible. All right. So apparently the sound is down, guys. They can't hear me on the I'll just keep going with the with the podcast. But it looks like the video. I'm not even going out on video. All right.
You're on video.
I'm on video. Okay, that is terrific. So, podcast. Stay with me here because we got one more thing. I got a shot of Jack for you. I just spent 10 minutes, 20 minutes getting you pumped up, getting you fired up for whatever is to come this weekend. And now, let's go ahead and step back in the Wayback Machine. Jack Crystal, the greatest to ever do it, the greatest to step behind a microphone of all time in college football, had a couple of moments against Alabama. We know one, 1980. It's the one we all tell our kids about. Well, actually, they have to tell me about because I was one. But it's the one. It's the biggest upset over Alabama in history. So let's go ahead and enjoy that together right now.
40 seconds to play. Jacobs says he can't hear. Officials are not calling anything yet. Jacobs up underneath. Long snap count. Jacobs wants to throw. Under pressure. Fires in the middle. Pass caught at the 5. Knocked down at the 4. Alabama's receiver knocked down at the 4-yard line.
I would have been terrified right now.
That was Trout, the tight end. 1st and 4 and goal to go for Alabama. They've stopped the clock with 25 seconds. Alabama gets on the goal line
just
with 22
terrified.
seconds. Wishbone offense. No timeouts for Alabama. Jacobs says he cannot hear.
Oh.
Jacobs goes up underneath. Jacobs long snap count. Goes to the fullback. Fumbles.
Oh.
Fumbles the ball.
Oh.
Bulldogs recover. Bulldogs recover. Bulldogs recover. With 6 seconds, the Bulldogs recover.
That is like, if I were like an addict, that would be my drug right there. That is like the straight adrenaline pumped directly into my body. That is fantastic. That Again, I was 1 year old at the time, but going back and listening to that never fails to get me fired up. It never fails to get me going. Listening to Jack Crystal and what was probably his very, very prime at Mississippi State call the biggest win in school history to that point. It's just awesome. But we got another one. Because my favorite State-Alabama game of all time, actually my favorite Mississippi State football game of all time, happened in 1996 when State wasn't even having a good year. But Alabama came in number 8 in the country with Gene Stallings. They came into Davis Wade Stadium, I guess called Scott Field at the time. They came in there and they left with a loss. And here's Jack Crystal to finish that one off.
Oh, unless Mississippi State mishandles this football, Derek Tate is going to go to his knee and kneel down. And unless the officials start that play clock, there are 24 seconds on the game clock, 22 seconds. This ball game is over. This ball game is history. You can put this one in the record book. You can wrap this one, my friend, in maroon and white. Mississippi State 17, Alabama 16, 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo! Mississippi State 17, Alabama 16. The 8th-ranked team in the country has just gone down to defeat, and goalposts are going down on both ends of the field.
I loved that game so much because you went into it not expecting to win, and you had never, like, again, I was born in 1980, so this is 1996. I guess I was 17 years old. I had never seen Mississippi State beat Alabama. I wasn't expecting it. I went with a friend of mine. We were sitting there in very good seats, and State won. And it was the greatest, beating Alabama was the greatest feeling I'd ever had as a Mississippi State football fan to that point. Now, the next 3 or 4 years, we beat them 4 more times. And then we beat them in 2006, beat them in 2007, haven't beaten them since then. So we're creating a new generation of Brandon Walkers who have never seen Mississippi State beat Alabama. Will we put an end to that this Saturday night? I don't know. I don't think so, but I ain't scared. I'm not scared. So, Facebook Live, guys, I'm coming right back to you. I know we've had a little bit of problems. It looks like we're back. We're fixed. So I'll be right back to you. But podcast, guys, I'm going to drop you off the curb right here. Please be back tomorrow as we'll talk about some more stuff. I even have an interesting guest coming up this week. I don't know if you've ever listened or seen Funny Maine on YouTube, but he's going to be on the show. Funny Maine, Alabama's internet sensation. We'll have him either Tuesday or Wednesday on the show. And until next time, my name is Brandon Walker. This has been More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country. So what happened there, Terp? We okay?
Yep. Just streaming difficulties, not our fault.
We're back up now, though?
Yep. 1:29 live.
What time we got? 12:15? I got 15 minutes we can talk.
There you go.
All right. All right. Looks like we got everybody. Looks like we have everybody. Steve C is here. Steve, the giver of this incredible cowbell from Battle Bells. So, Steve, a friend of the show, a great friend of the show. Steve, I have your number. I was given your number, and I'm going to call you and thank you personally for that. So, not going to do it right now because that would be unprofessional, but I will call you and thank you later. Can you get on the no, Kenny Manning, we're not doing that. We are not doing that, Kenny. Giants lost to the Rams 51-17. Terp, any thoughts about that?
Good.
Any thoughts about Eli Manning getting benched?
No. I'm glad we lost.
When Eli Manning gets benched and then retires, we will officially be out of Mannings. Whew. It's been a long road. Just talked through lunch. Grace Thacker Good. Well, I have to eat lunch at some point too, Grace. I'm hungry. I can't go down to the Crystal Grill in Greenwood and get me something to eat. Do you think it'll be a one-score game? Yeah, I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a good football game. I think it will be a very good football game. At the most 2 scores. I don't see a blowout happening. I just don't see it. Kevin Wright is living in the Birmingham area and listening to Alabama has become miserable. You say it's become miserable. Was it ever not miserable? That's my question. Was it ever not miserable? Apparently, Maryland also lost to Rutgers. Terp, your thoughts?
Third string quarterback got hurt. Now on our fourth string. So not much you can do when you're on your fourth string quarterback.
No, not when you're Maryland. Will Te'amu win the Heisman next year? Probably. Let's see, he only got 1 year left. I wouldn't rule him out winning it this year, and then I guess they'll go ahead and preemptively give it to him in the preseason for next year. And if Shea Patterson's healthy and still at Ole Miss, they'll actually split the Heisman and give it to both of them. So that'll be interesting to watch. If State plays like they did against LSU and Alabama does the same, we have a great chance to win. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying State's going to come out and beat Alabama by 28 points. But the evidence is out there if you care to look at it. The evidence is there. Alabama hasn't played a team as good as Mississippi State, and when they have played a decent team, they haven't played that well. UMass is a halfway decent quarterback away from being possibly undefeated. Isabella and Young will play on Sundays. We weren't that bad, missing 3 receivers. Derek Channing Beach. A lot of Derek's here today. Apparently it's National Derek Day. Would this be considered the biggest upset win if we win Saturday? No, it wouldn't. No, 96 was bigger. We weren't ranked. They were number 8. 1980 is the gold standard. We were unranked. They were number 1. You root for a team that's going to be in the top 15 in the country tomorrow night. You root for a team who is in the top 15. So while it would be an upset, it wouldn't be that big of an upset. And the AP poll would still rank us in the high teams. Don't even look at the AP poll. Don't even look at it. I think it'll come down to the last second field goal if we keep it close. So Cameron Crawford, do not put that scenario in play because Jace Christman hasn't missed a field goal this year. I don't want the Alabama game to come down to a field goal because if we were to miss in that situation, I don't know if I could live with myself. Bama will come out throwing the deep ball to go up early because our secondary gets burned on deep passes every single time. Well, that's not true at all. The secondary has gotten burned before, just like every secondary in the country. Secondary is 3rd in the SEC in giving up pass yardage. The secondary does not get burned every single time. That's false. That's a falsehood. Can our D hold down the tide? I think so. How about that punt return for a TD? Chad Mask. Dedrick Thomas, that was a huge play. Not only because it helped us win, but it showed something explosive. State has not been explosive this year outside Nick Fitzgerald. He's the only guy who's proven he can go 60 yards for a touchdown. Well, Dedrick Thomas just proved he can go 80 for a punt return touchdown. That's big. Any injury update on Gary Green? No, none yet. Mullen talks at 1 o'clock to the state media. I assume you'll get your update there. Can we stay in the top 15 across the board heading into the postseason? If you lose to Alabama respectively and stay in the top 20, and then you beat Arkansas, you beat Ole Miss, State will be in the top 15 come postseason. No doubt about it. Maybe even top 12. UMass threw all over us. Throw the UMass game out. I mean, the offensive line didn't block well. The receivers, nobody really played well against UMass. So, yeah, UMass threw all over us, but it doesn't matter. Like that game might as well not even have counted. Has the secondary played well this year? Yes. Have they gotten burned at times? Yes. Does that mean Alabama's going to come out and throw 7 80-yard touchdowns? No, it doesn't. It's not if, but just how bad Bama must beat State come Saturday night, 45-10 sounds about right. Well, you have that attitude. You're right to have that attitude. It's wrong. Alabama will not beat State 45-10. If Hurts has 5 seconds on a play-action pass over a middle, going to be touchdowns. Ridley's too fast. Look me in the eye. Let's talk for a second. I know you're State fans, so you see the worst. You see the secondaries being awful. No way they cover Alabama's receivers, right? No way they stop the running game. No way they stop Jalen Hurts, right? Does Mississippi State or Texas A&M have a better defense? Answer me that question. State does, right? Because Texas A&M slowed Alabama down. Does LSU or Mississippi State have a better defense? Mississippi State does. By every statistical measure, LSU slowed Alabama down. So get this defeatist crap out of your head, all right? Not football related, but who would win an arm wrestling match, Dan Mullen or Nick Saban? See, these are the important questions. I can't imagine Nick Saban losing anything. So he would probably cheat, maybe jab him with a pencil or something, but I would see Saban winning that. Have you heard we're using alternate uniforms this week with silver helmets? I saw the tweet. The Veterans Day, the American-themed helmets and uniforms. I like it. We wore them last year and beat Texas A&M. State. Oh, you're telling me which has better defense. Yeah. I'm just trying to tell you, stop being down on Mississippi State's chances just because it's State and this is Alabama. All right. The 2017 version of State and the 2017 version of Alabama have never met on a football field. They haven't. So nothing that happened last year matters. Nothing that happened in 2015 matters. B.J. Cummings is just hating on Jess Hardy. So I don't know if you guys got beef, but go for it. What about Dan going for it on 4th down Saturday? I think it set a bad tone in the first half. You know, any call that doesn't work, I guess, is a mistake. Any call that doesn't work can be called a bad call. But I probably would have gone for it on 4th and 1 too. I wouldn't have gone for it with a sneak like we did, but State's been very, very good in 4th down this year. So I don't have a problem with him going for it. We're not even going to talk about the trick play, guys. Don't even come with that. That's just depressing. That's a rabbit hole leading to nowhere. It didn't work. It was a bad time to call it. Move on. Bama's O-line could not contain Arden Key. Sweat is playing better than Key. I think he'll be able to put pressure on Hurts. I like our chances. So, where do hamsters live outside of pet stores? Thomas Loftus. I don't know. Are there hamsters in the wild? Turp, are there hamsters in the wild? You're a turtle.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. That's a good question.
I don't know if wild hamsters are a thing.
Blake D says it depends on which state team shows up. We look lights out against LSU, UK, and A&M. Look like garbage against UMass. We got to quit playing down the competition. We should have beaten UMass by 45. Okay, I'm not reading anything about UMass anymore. If you can't handle beating UMass 34-23, I don't know what to tell you. We have to get up for the game and lame play calling. We get so predictive sometimes. Sometimes I wonder why I do this show. Thank you, Blake D's. Keep safety over Ridley when we run man. Cambridge Williams. Yeah. And Blake, I understand. Blake D's. It does depend on what state team shows up. But at home, I think you're going to get the one that played LSU. At home, I think you're going to get the one that played Kentucky. Again, we played terribly at Georgia. Got behind on the road and fell behind and just never got recovered. But again, there's a possibility Georgia's a better football team than Alabama. It just is. You're not telling me the truth, Blake. You're telling me defeatist crap. So that's not the truth. When I was in Uganda, a family served us barbecue guinea pigs. Kevin Wright says that.
Would you try that?
If I was in Uganda
Yes.
and I was hungry, yes, I would. I mean, why not? Why not?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's a guinea pig.
It's a guinea pig, but you eat a pig, you eat other animals. Why do we differentiate which animals? Why are some animals, I don't know. Barbecue guinea pig. Whew. Man, hello. I think that the UMass was the worst. That was UMass's worst loss all year, yes. Trick play was put on tape for Bama, not for UMass. Shane Harrison. I don't think that, Shane. I think he was just feeling the momentum. He was going for the knockout blow, and he called the wrong play. That's all. I think he felt everything rolling. He felt everything going good, and he said, let's roll the dice and hit him with this and knock him out. And it didn't happen. But I think he was just going for the knockout punch. That's what I think. I don't think it was anything to do with Alabama because you're certainly not going to run that against Alabama. Steve C. says, can we get Alabama to start an intra-squad fist fight? That would be interesting. We certainly did it with UMass. That 57 shouldn't play for UMass anymore. He was fighting us, wrapping people's ankles up, fighting each other, fighting his team, fighting his coaches. That guy needs to calm down. Point City, hello. I bet first play of the game we throw in the flat for a loss or 22 up the middle. If I'm wrong, I'll buy you a meal from Bulldog Burger. Well, Blake, it seems like you are really depressed being a Mississippi State fan, and you could probably find other ways to use your Saturdays. If we beat Alabama, they beat Auburn SEC championship. No, we'd still be behind LSU. We're gonna. Well, actually, Auburn. and then LSU, and then there's and then you carry the 3, and then banana swirl, and a small amount of peas. I think you're right. I think you're right. No, you're not right. You're not right. No, you're not right. Because if Bama loses to us, but beats Auburn, they're going to finish with 1 loss in the SEC. So you're wrong. We're both wrong. We are wrong. Both of us. What was the deal with Mullen and the UMass coach jawing at each other? I think they were just caught up. 57 was wreaking havoc. Mullen had problems with that. UMass coach had problems with the hit, the targeting or whatever, and whatever. It was just the middle of the game, and they got caught up and heated. Not a big deal. When Green got hurt, Auburn holds a tiebreaker, Wayman Hodge, yes, but LSU does not, and that would create, if Auburn, LSU, Mississippi State finish tied, then you're going to go to a weird tiebreaker, right? When Green got hurt, Thomas was recovering a fumble. Green's leg was not the target. Sean Barker, I think you're right. But still, the guy should have realized what he was doing. Like, if you pick up the ball and there's a foot attached to it, you should probably put the ball down. I walked across the entire student section of the visitors' tunnel to tell 57 how I felt about him. Ethan Fleury. It's pretty good. And unfortunately, you could walk across the student section because nobody was there. Dan had 2 game plans. The first one was not working. He went back to Fitz. I agree with that. He didn't want to run Fitz. He wanted to just throw it. It wasn't working, so he had to come back and run Fitz. Jason Cleveland has joined. Good to see him. Got 2 minutes left. Get in whatever you want to get in. If you want to talk about tater tots or french fries or hamburgers or my shirt, whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about it. Hamsters are found in Syria in the wild. Seriously, all pet store hamsters came from 1 litter. Guess he told you. Guess you won't ask that question anymore. Thank you, Steve.
Nope.
Syria. So a lot of hamsters running around Syria, I guess. It's a serious problem.
That was bad. That was a bad joke.
Count it. I was told it was the worst attended game in the Mullen era. That's probably true. But it was UMass at 11. I don't blame people for not showing up. I'm over that. I don't blame people for not showing up. Gene Chizik to Florida. Boy, that would be awful for Florida. Could you imagine firing Jim McElwain just to hire Gene Chizik? Gene Chizik is terrible. Tots and chili cheese. Delicious. Greatest coup in state's history was getting Grantham for sermon. Darren Butler. Yes. The best thing that's happened this season. Todd Grantham is this season's MVP. Last couple of comments. I like your plaid shirts better than solid. Thank you very much. What rabbit from the hat would you expect from Coach on Saturday? Just convincing his team not to be scared of Alabama just because it's Alabama. I'm trying to convince the fan base. So if he needs me to come convince the team, I can come. Just pay my plane ticket and let me go to Anthony's. And apparently, we're finished. So that's Terp. We'll be back tomorrow. More Cowbell, Mississippi State Podcast, SEC Country.